The car industry is in turmoil. What was once a booming market now feels like a house of cards teetering on the edge of collapse. Dealerships, once thriving on high demand and soaring prices, now face a desperate need to unload cars fast. But what caused this dramatic shift, and why are dealers practically giving away their stock? The surge of overpriced vehicles. For years, car dealerships enjoyed the thrill of escalating prices. The pandemic-induced chip shortage, supply chain disruptions, and a lack of manufacturing capacity allowed dealers to raise prices sky high. At first, it seemed like a temporary phenomenon, but it quickly became clear that the demand was outpacing supply. Dealers saw this as an opportunity to capitalize on the situation, marking up cars by tens of thousands of dollars. Luxury models, SUVs, and even modest sedans were all priced at premiums, as dealerships scrambled to keep up with the demand. However, now that the dust has settled, the reality is much harsher. The cars that once seemed like a good investment are now a burden. Buyers, fed up with astronomical prices, are choosing to wait out the market rather than make impulsive purchases. Those that do decide to buy are demanding drastic discounts. As a result, dealers find themselves stuck with overpriced inventory. Some have even resorted to offering substantial rebates, lowering the original asking price, but still, many cars remain unsold. This market distortion has created a desperate situation.
Car dealerships were empty. I mean, empty.
As dealers struggle to rid themselves of overvalued stock before depreciation takes hold. The truth is, the car market had been built on an illusion of scarcity and inflated values. Now, as more reasonable buyers return to the market, the reality of overpriced vehicles is causing a shift in behavior. The cars dealers thought would be cash cows are now creating financial chaos. If they don't sell soon, these cars could lose even more value, pushing dealerships to the edge of financial instability. Will these dealers be able to recover from their overconfidence, or is the market heading for an even worse collapse? What happens when the supply chain breaks down? The car industry has been plagued by severe supply chain disruptions in recent years. The global pandemic triggered a chain reaction that affected nearly every sector, but the automotive industry felt it the hardest. Car manufacturers, already struggling with labor shortages and limited parts availability, found themselves unable to keep up with demand. In the early days of the crisis, when showrooms were bare, dealerships made bold promises of limited availability and special orders, capitalizing on what seemed like an endless hunger for vehicles. However, as the supply chain slowly began to recover, the floodgates opened, and dealerships were overwhelmed with inventory they were ill-prepared to manage. What was once a scarcity-driven market turned into an overstock nightmare. New vehicles flooded the lots, and dealers who had survived by selling cars at inflated prices now found themselves with massive amounts of stock they couldn't move. Older models, which once commanded premium prices, were now buried under piles of newer, more affordable options. This overwhelming inventory, much of it priced too high, has caused dealers to lower their expectations, pushing them to offer deep discounts and special financing options in an attempt to clear out their lots. However, the issue isn't just about pricing. The constant delays in production and parts have meant that new models arrive on the lot with outdated technology, features, or designs.
But now, some of its vehicles seem unwanted.
In an era where car buyers are increasingly tech-savvy and demand the latest innovations, dealerships are struggling to move older stock that simply doesn't meet expectations. The pressure is mounting as the flood of new cars continues to pour in, and dealerships, once confident in their high margins, are now scrambling to stay afloat. Can dealerships clear their overstock before prices drop even further, or will they drown under a sea of unsellable vehicles? The shift to electric. The rise of electric vehicles, EVs, has been one of the most significant changes in the automotive industry in recent years. Consumers are increasingly turning toward electric cars, driven by concerns about climate change, the rising cost of fuel, and incentives from governments encouraging green energy. However, as much as this shift towards sustainability is necessary, it has caused chaos in the traditional car dealership market. Dealerships that once thrived on high-demand, gas-guzzling models are now scrambling to catch up with the growing demand for electric vehicles. The transition from gasoline-powered cars to electric models
There's no oil changes, no fan belts, no filters.
Isn't just about shifting consumer preferences, it's a fundamental change in the market. Dealerships must contend with new technology, unfamiliar pricing models, and the high cost of stocking EVs. Unlike traditional vehicles, EVs often have higher initial costs, but they also come with significant government subsidies, which help offset the price. As a result, dealerships are forced to shift their inventory to meet these demands. But there's a problem. Many traditional car buyers still prefer gas-powered models, and they are not willing to pay a premium for an electric vehicle. Additionally, the lack of charging infrastructure and range anxiety, concerns about how far EVs can go on a single charge, have deterred many buyers. Even though automakers are producing more electric models, it's clear that the shift to EVs is not as rapid as predicted, leaving dealers with unsold stock that buyers simply aren't interested in. With these new trends, the dealership market has become fractured, and traditional models are no longer enough to keep dealers afloat. Will electric cars take over? Or will the traditional vehicle market fight back with a vengeance? The rise of online car sales. Gone are the days when buying a car meant spending hours at a dealership, negotiating with salespeople, and enduring long waits. Online car sales platforms have revolutionized the buying experience, offering buyers a seamless process to browse, select, and purchase cars from the comfort of their homes. Online giants like Carvana, Vroom, and even traditional dealerships' digital platforms have shifted the car buying experience entirely. The rise of online sales has left traditional dealerships struggling to keep up. Buyers now expect quick, transparent pricing, the ability to customize their vehicle, and the convenience of having their new car delivered to their doorstep. These digital platforms provide not only convenience, but often better prices due to lower overhead costs compared to physical dealerships. As a result, consumers are skipping the traditional dealership process and turning to these online options, where they can browse a vast inventory without stepping foot on a lot. Dealerships that have traditionally relied on foot traffic are now finding themselves sidelined.
It's not the market, it's mismanagement.
With consumers preferring to complete their purchases online, the pressure to maintain physical locations and large inventories has diminished. While many dealerships are beginning to adapt by developing their online presence, many are finding the shift to e-commerce to be a difficult transition. For the first time, online sales are not just a supplementary sales tool, they are becoming the dominant force in the market. Will traditional dealerships be able to adapt, or is the rise of online car sales the final blow to their business? The struggle with used car prices. Used car prices have been steadily climbing for several years, reaching unprecedented levels. What was once considered an affordable alternative to new cars has now become a significant financial investment. Due to the shortage of new cars, more buyers turn to the used car market, driving up prices. Dealers who relied on used car sales have found themselves in a particularly tough spot. As used cars became more expensive, they also became harder to sell. The issue is twofold. First, used car prices have become too high for most buyers to afford. Second, the increase in prices has caused a stagnation in the market, as consumers are simply unwilling to pay inflated prices for vehicles that are often several years old. The rising prices, coupled with the need for dealerships to maintain a steady stream of inventory,
I love everything about this dealership,
have left many dealers stuck with high-priced used vehicles that no one wants to buy. Despite attempts to offer incentives or discounts, used car dealerships are finding it increasingly difficult to move inventory. Consumers have become more cautious, and the fear of overpaying for an older car is causing many to hold off on making a purchase altogether. This has forced dealers to slash prices and offer deals that are eating into their already slim profit margins. Can the used car market recover, or is it doomed to a prolonged slump? A financial nightmare for car buyers. Interest rates have been rising steadily, making car loans more expensive for buyers. When interest rates are low, consumers are more willing to take on large loans to finance their vehicles. But as interest rates climb, financing a car becomes more costly, and many consumers are reconsidering their purchases. This has had a significant impact on the car market, particularly for dealerships that rely on offering financing options to close sales. The higher cost of financing means that many potential buyers can no longer afford the vehicles they once could. As loans become more expensive, the number of people willing to take out car loans has dwindled. This has led to fewer buyers on the lot, leaving dealerships with cars they can't move. In a desperate attempt to make sales, dealerships are slashing prices and offering high-risk financing options to those with subprime credit.
they gotta lower the prices.
But these tactics come with their own set of risks. With interest rates rising, the car market is facing a financial squeeze. Dealers are forced to offer deep discounts to move cars, but but the increase in loan defaults is making it more difficult to recoup their losses. For many dealerships, this has created a crisis of confidence, as they wonder whether they can weather the storm, or if this marks the beginning of the end. Will higher interest rates bring the car market to its knees, or will dealerships adapt to this new reality? The fear of depreciation. Cars have always depreciated the moment they leave the dealership lot, but the speed at which they are losing value has never been more alarming. In the past, a car would typically lose 10 to 20% of its value within the first few years of ownership. However, recent shifts in the automotive market, such as the rapid advancement of technology and the looming electric vehicle transition, have accelerated this depreciation. What was once considered a reliable investment now feels like a rapidly depreciating asset. For dealerships, this accelerated depreciation is a nightmare. Cars that were once seen as high-value models are now losing value faster than dealers can sell them. As new features, better technology, and electric models emerge,
All new cars back on the lot.
older vehicles are quickly becoming obsolete. This is particularly true for luxury vehicles, which tend to lose value quickly once a new model is released. But even mid-range cars are facing a sharp decline in resale value, as buyers become increasingly selective and demand the latest technology or sustainability features found in newer vehicles. This rapid depreciation not only hurts consumers, but also puts dealerships in a precarious position. They are caught between the need to sell these cars quickly before they lose even more value, and the reality that many of these cars are already priced too high to move at all. The situation is worsened by the increasing difficulty of financing as interest rates rise, making it harder for buyers to afford the cars they once could have purchased without hesitation. The fear of further depreciation is palpable, and dealerships are racing to unload their inventory before they're left with unsellable stock. Can dealerships escape the vicious cycle of depreciation, or will they be forced to accept massive losses? The luxury car struggle. Luxury cars were once seen as a hallmark of success, offering prestige and status to those who could afford them. But in today's economic climate, luxury cars are no longer the must-have items they once were. The confluence of rising interest rates, economic uncertainty, and changing consumer behavior has left dealerships with an oversupply of high-end vehicles that simply aren't selling. For decades, luxury vehicles were seen as an investment for those looking to make a statement. Buyers flocked to high-end brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Lexus, seeing these cars as symbols of success and sophistication. But the market has shifted. As economic conditions tighten, buyers are becoming more price-sensitive and less willing to spend exorbitant amounts on a luxury vehicle. Many of the people who could once afford to splurge on these cars are now questioning whether the investment is worth it. In addition, the rise of electric vehicles has further complicated matters. Many luxury brands, once known for their gas-powered vehicles, are now under pressure to offer electric alternatives. But these new EV models often come at an even higher price point, and the shift has alienated some long-time customers who feel hesitant about transitioning to an electric vehicle. Meanwhile, the used luxury car market is becoming flooded with options, further lowering demand for new models. Dealerships are left in a tough spot, struggling to maintain the high margins that luxury cars once provided. Some have resorted to drastic discounts, even on brand new models, but the results are still lackluster. The high cost of these cars, paired with uncertain economic times, means that even those who can afford them are opting for more practical purchases. Will the luxury car market ever regain its previous allure, or is this the end of the line for high-end vehicles? The culprit: dealerships' overconfidence. In the years leading up to the market collapse, many dealerships were riding high on the wave of easy sales. The combination of low interest rates, strong consumer demand, and the perceived permanence of high prices gave dealerships a false sense of security. They overstocked their lots with high-priced inventory, expecting that customers would continue to buy at inflated rates. This overconfidence led to a backlog of unsellable cars, as dealerships failed to adjust to the shifts in the market that were right in front of them. Dealerships were not only overconfident in the longevity of the inflated market, they also underestimated the speed at which consumer behavior would change. As prices rose, buyers became more cautious, and demand started to wane. Consumers who once flocked to dealerships were now more likely to do research online and compare prices from multiple sources before stepping onto a lot. Additionally, dealerships that stuck to old, traditional sales tactics found themselves losing out to newer, more modern models of business. Online platforms like Carvana and Vroom began offering greater transparency, easier buying processes, and delivery options that dealers simply couldn't match. What once felt like a safe bet, overstocking cars and relying on financing deals to drive sales, now looks like a critical misstep. The overconfidence of many dealerships has led them into a situation where they're stuck with too much inventory and too little consumer demand. As the reality sets in, dealerships are forced to reevaluate their approach. Some are scrambling to offer online sales, while others are still holding out hope that traditional methods will work. But the damage has been done, and their once dominant position in the market is slipping away. Can these dealerships recover from their missteps, or will they fall victim to their own overconfidence? What's next for the car market? The future of the car market is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the old ways of doing business will no longer work. The rise of electric vehicles, the shift towards online car sales, and changes in consumer behavior all point to the need for a massive industry overhaul. Dealerships that wish to survive must adapt to these changes or risk becoming irrelevant. As the market begins to stabilize, it's clear that the automotive industry will look very different in the coming years. Electric vehicles are expected to become the norm, and many dealerships are already beginning to stock more EV models. However, the transition won't be easy. The price point of many electric vehicles is still a barrier for most buyers, and the necessary infrastructure, like charging stations, has yet to be fully established. The rise of online sales also means that physical dealerships will need to reconsider their roles. While some traditional dealerships are embracing e-commerce, others are struggling to adapt. The key to surviving this transformation will be the ability to provide a seamless, customer-centric experience, whether online or in person. Dealerships that fail to innovate will likely fade into obscurity, while those that embrace change have a chance to thrive in a transformed market. Additionally, the future of financing will be a major factor. As interest rates continue to rise, dealerships may need to explore alternative financing models, such as subscription services or leasing programs, to attract buyers who are unwilling to take on large loans. The way cars are sold, financed, and maintained is likely to undergo radical changes in the coming decade. Is this the dawn of a new era for the car market, or are we about to witness a complete collapse of traditional dealerships? Will dealers survive the chaos? The final chapter of this saga is unfolding right now. With massive overstocked lots, unsold vehicles, and a market that's becoming more competitive by the day, dealerships are left with a singular question: can they survive this crisis? The need for immediate action is paramount, as the clock ticks down on their ability to clear out old inventory. Some dealers are slashing prices, offering deep discounts, and working with third-party financing companies to provide more affordable options. Others are focusing on improving the customer experience, offering online consultations, virtual test drives, and enhanced delivery services. But no matter the strategy, the road ahead is uncertain. The dealerships that survive this crisis will be those that can quickly adjust their business model, embrace new technology, and understand the needs of today's car buyers. For many, however, the reality of the situation is beginning to sink in. Some dealerships may not recover from this period of turmoil. The overstocked inventory, combined with a lack of consumer demand and changing market conditions, may push some dealers to the brink of closure. For others, the road to recovery will be long and uncertain. The days of easy sales and inflated prices are over. What happens next is anyone's guess. In recent years, the concept of car ownership has been undergoing a significant transformation. For decades, buying a car outright or leasing was the only real option available to consumers. However, as the cost of ownership continues to rise, a growing number of companies and dealerships are introducing alternative models, such as subscription services. These services allow consumers to pay a monthly fee to access a car, which they can switch out at their discretion without the long-term commitment of ownership. The appeal of this model is clear. It offers flexibility, convenience, and the ability to drive a new car without the burdens of maintenance, insurance, and depreciation. The rise of subscription services has been a game changer for car dealerships. With fewer people choosing to own a car, dealerships are forced to rethink their business model. Subscription services offer a steady stream of revenue without the pressure of managing depreciating inventory. In fact, some companies like Volvo, Porsche, and even General Motors have already rolled out their own subscription services to compete with the growing demand for alternative ownership models. For dealerships, this shift in consumer behavior means a drastic reduction in traditional car sales, but it also presents an opportunity to tap into a new market. Subscription services allow dealerships to offer more variety in their fleet without being burdened by unsold inventory. However, this change also brings with it challenges. Dealers must manage a more complex inventory system, and subscription fees might not always be as profitable as traditional sales in the short term. The key to success in this new era will be adaptability and an understanding of the evolving needs of modern consumers. Will subscription services revolutionize car ownership, or will this trend fade as quickly as it emerged? The impact of rising fuel prices. For years, SUVs have been the backbone of the American automotive market. They offer space, power, and style, making them the preferred choice for families, road trippers, and those who simply enjoy the commanding presence of a larger vehicle. However, the steady rise in fuel prices, combined with increased environmental awareness, is starting to take its toll on the SUV market. As gasoline prices climb and electric vehicle alternatives gain traction, many consumers are reassessing their need for large, fuel-guzzling cars. Dealerships that once thrived on selling SUVs are now feeling the pinch as consumers shy away from these thirsty vehicles in favor of smaller, more fuel-efficient options. While some manufacturers are attempting to pivot to hybrid or electric SUVs, these alternatives often come with high price tags, which only further alienates price-sensitive buyers. As a result, dealerships are finding it increasingly difficult to move large vehicles that were once considered staples of their inventory. SUVs have long been seen as the vehicles of choice for families and those needing extra cargo space. But with the rise in fuel prices and growing environmental concerns, consumers are looking for greener, more economical options. The challenge for dealerships lies in balancing the demand for smaller, more fuel-efficient cars with the need to unload their SUV inventory. And as the shift to electric vehicles continues, the fate of the SUV market remains uncertain. Will SUVs become the next legacy vehicle, or will they eventually be phased out in favor of more sustainable options? Will the SUV market survive the pressure of rising fuel prices, or is it doomed to decline? The role of auto shows, a dying tradition or future opportunity. For decades, auto shows were the highlight of the automotive calendar. These glitzy events offered manufacturers a chance to unveil their latest models, show off cutting-edge technology, and give consumers a sneak peek at the future of driving. But in recent years, the relevance of auto shows has come into question. As digital technology has taken over, consumers no longer need to wait for a big show to see the latest vehicle releases. The ability to access detailed specs, videos, and virtual showcases online has diminished the need for these expensive, high-profile events. Dealerships and manufacturers are beginning to question the value of auto shows in a rapidly changing market. Many have scaled back their participation in these events, choosing instead to focus on digital marketing, online previews, and influencer partnerships. In fact, some manufacturers have completely bypassed traditional auto shows, opting for private events or online unveilings to generate buzz. The decline of auto shows presents a unique challenge for dealerships. These events were once a major opportunity to generate interest in new cars and to make connections with potential buyers. Without these shows, dealers now have to rely more heavily on online marketing, influencer partnerships, and other forms of digital engagement to reach consumers. The shift also affects the relationship between manufacturers and dealerships, as many automakers are now moving toward direct-to-consumer sales models, bypassing traditional dealership networks entirely. While auto shows may no longer hold the same significance they once did, some believe they still represent an opportunity to engage with consumers in a more personal, tangible way. For dealerships, the question is whether to double down on these events, embrace the digital shift, or find a balance between the two. Are auto shows a thing of the past, or can they be revitalized to meet the demands of a digital age? How international markets are affecting US dealerships. While the US car market has always been a dominant force in the global automotive industry, it is increasingly influenced by international markets, particularly in Europe and Asia. The shift in consumer preferences worldwide is impacting how US dealerships operate,
and I might choose those products before I even come to the dealership. Hey, this makes sense.
forcing them to adapt to new trends and global challenges. One significant global shift is the rise in demand for electric vehicles, which has become a driving force in markets like Europe. Countries like Norway and the Netherlands have set ambitious goals to phase out gasoline-powered cars entirely, and manufacturers are shifting their production to meet this demand. As a result, US dealerships are feeling pressure to follow suit. The global push for electric vehicles is forcing manufacturers to adapt their product lines, which in turn impacts the inventory available to US dealerships. Additionally, the global chip shortage, which has affected car production worldwide, continues to wreak havoc on dealerships in the US. Car manufacturers in countries like Japan, South Korea, and China are facing their own challenges in securing enough parts to meet production demands. As a result, the supply chain remains fragile, and dealerships continue to grapple with shortages of key models. While many manufacturers are beginning to recover from the worst of the shortages, it will take time for the effects to trickle down to US dealerships, leaving them vulnerable to market fluctuations. In some cases, the impact of international markets is causing dealerships to rethink their global sourcing strategies. For example, many US dealerships are now looking to diversify their supply chains and consider sourcing vehicles from other regions. This shift may help mitigate some of the risks posed by international supply issues, but it also adds complexity to an already challenging market. How much longer will US dealerships be able to rely on global markets, or is it time for them to rethink their strategies entirely? The role of dealerships in the EV transition. The transition to electric vehicles, EVs, is undoubtedly one of the most significant shifts the automotive industry has seen in decades. However, as car makers push to meet global sustainability goals and governments set stricter emission standards, dealerships are faced with the challenge of adapting to an entirely new way of doing business. The question is, what role will dealerships play in this EV revolution? For traditional dealerships, the shift to EVs represents a major pivot. Sales teams that once specialized in selling fuel-efficient sedans or large SUVs are now tasked with promoting electric cars, which require a different sales approach, product knowledge, and customer base. Additionally, EVs typically have fewer moving parts, meaning they require less maintenance than traditional gas-powered vehicles, which has the potential to reduce profits for service departments. Dealerships that rely heavily on after-sales service are feeling the strain as EVs require less frequent servicing. However, the opportunities in the EV market are vast. Dealerships have the chance to become key players in the transition to cleaner energy, offering charging stations, solar energy solutions, and education about EV infrastructure. Some dealerships are already adopting new strategies by investing in EV-specific showrooms and training their sales teams to cater to the growing demand for electric vehicles. The challenge for dealerships is determining how much investment to make in the EV market. While the future is undoubtedly electric, the transition will not happen overnight, and dealerships must decide whether to focus on their traditional offerings or fully embrace the change to secure a future in an electric world. The car dealership industry stands at a crossroads. Will they adapt or fall behind? Share your thoughts in the comments and be sure to check out our next video to see what's next for this rapidly evolving market.